Welcome to Buffalo, New York, where over the weekend they picked up 6 feet of new snow. Good thing for us here in Microsoft Flight Simulator, we're at home where it's warm. Also, good thing for us that they've gone and plowed the runway for us. Looks like they did a pretty good job on the taxiway. Got to tell you, as somebody who's been flight simming for a long time, it's really cool to get to see snow where there's supposed to be snow. Hello there, I am Dave. I do the Spy Flight over on Twitch TV, and every Monday or so I like to come over here to YouTube and do what I call a complete cold and dark flight. And today I got a cold and dark flight in this airplane right here. This is the PMDG 737, and as it turns out, United Airlines flies a 737 Model 800, just like this one, over to Chicago every morning. And at the real world airport, they've already got the snow plows out, so that flight actually took off. How do I know that? Well, one of the things that you can do in flight simulation is look at the real world flight trackers like FlightAware's the one that I use. You could also use Flight Radar 24, and you could see that United Flight 301, a 737, took off from Buffalo to Chicago early this morning. So the real world airport is open. I suspect that it's open also because the people who remove snow at Buffalo Airport are real experts at removing snow. See, Buffalo gets what's called lake effect snow, and that's why they get 6 feet of snow at a time. So that's what's going on as far as the snow. We've also got some cold weather operations. PMDG also did a quick update on this airplane. If you'd like to learn more about what's going on with the PMDG airport, they're one of the head of the company there regularly does these posts over on the PMDG forums, and you can see the changes that they're making. There's also news that the much awaited electronic flight bag is getting closer and closer to release, and can't wait to see what it is that PMDG comes up with. Electronic flight bags, if you don't know, those are the like the iPads that pilots carry. Remember in the old days, pilots carried big briefcases full of charts. Well, now that everything is in a secure iPad, and they use those up in the cockpit. So our flight for today, what have we got planned? Well, we're going to take the PMDG 737-800 with the latest updates up to Chicago. I'm using Navigraph SimBrief and SimToolkit Pro, Microsoft Flight Simulator Live Weather. I do use something called Pushback Helper. I don't think I need it really with the PMDG because we can do almost everything that we need within the PMDG system itself, but Pushback Helper is a good freeware app. And I'm also using the Topper 737 calculator for V-speeds, and I'll show you how that works. The Topper calculator is a payware. You can get it at Sim Market. It's about $10. And as I mentioned, we're flying a real-world flight today, United Airlines Flight 301. With real weather and 6 feet of snow in Buffalo. One thing we do need to do is keep an eye out for icing. That is going to be a thing on today's flight too. And of course, yeah, like I said, I'm using the Topper takeoff calculator for this airplane. Our route today, Buffalo to Chicago, departing runway 23, just like the real world. Durlow to Flint, and then the Windy 2 arrival to O'Hare's. They're landing 27 right and 28 center. I think I'm going for 28 center on this one. Our cruise levels 34,000 feet, hour and 50 minutes worth of flying time today, and it's a whole 571 miles. So the thing for you, what is it that you can do with this? Well, the beauty of YouTube as opposed to being live over on Twitch is you can fly the airplane along with me. You can stop the YouTube video right now and load up your sim in Buffalo and fly along with me. And so if you're trying to learn a new airplane, this is essentially how I learn how to fly new airplanes, is watch somebody that knows what they're doing on YouTube, stop and start and rewind the video and go from there. One of the things that I do like to suggest, though, is after you do this flight with me, be sure and do another flight within 2 or 3 days. That's just a way so that you might remember all the things that you might have picked up here, because these really are fairly complex airplanes. Shall we get going? Let's get everything going. First thing that you need as a pilot, do you have your trusty cup of coffee or other beverage of your choice in your cockpit? Y'all settled down and ready to go? Let's hop into the best seat in the house. And so I'm flying the United Airlines Star Wars livery. This was a livery that United was flying for a while. They've painted over it now because Rise of Skywalker is over now, but I always thought it was kind of a cool livery. I did get to see it once. Taxiing around Denver International Airport. Into the cockpit we go, and as I like to say, the best seat in the house right here. Let's see, I'm also, as I mentioned, using SimToolkit Pro. So let's go over here. My flight plan is already done. This is really nice. It's free. It works incredibly well with SimBrief. So, and the people that are doing SimToolkit Pro are constantly updating this. So one of the things that's new with SimToolkit Pro is if you look down here at the bottom, you can see the runway we have for departure, runway 23, and this gives you an idea of what the wind is going to do to you when you take off. So right now the wind's in Buffalo, 200 at 14 knots. It's a little gusty today too. So you can see that it's going to be blowing us off to the right side of the runway, which I think is really awesome as they continue to make SimToolkit Pro better and better. One last little application, especially if you're going to be flying around in VATSIM, that I like to suggest that you have quick access to is the classic Microsoft Flight Simulator volume mixer. Come on over here and you can see I can turn this up right now. I had it turned down because it was kind of windy outside. Yeah, I guess you can hear a little bit of wind out there. But this is really nice. You can also, like I said, if you're flying on VATSIM, there's some VATSIM controllers that are very soft-spoken. And so you sometimes might need to turn down the volume on your simulator. That's one of the things that I think is great about having the volume mixer there, and it's free. If you want to spend a little money, you know that live streamers and video producers use things called Stream Deck from Elgato. Elgato has got a new one that is just coming out. I pre-ordered mine, should be here in about 2 weeks, and it's got knobs that you can set up for volume levels. And I think that that might be something that flight simmers might want to look for too. It's going to have, I believe, 4 buttons along the top, 4 knobs along the bottom. You'll be able to use that for volume. I would also think maybe even altitude, autopilot, heading controls maybe. So really kind of excited to see what happens with that. As soon as it arrives, I'll put a YouTube video about that because I'm really thinking that's going to be great for flight simmers too, not just live streamers and YouTubers. All right, so we've got the Microsoft volume mixer ready to go. The only other thing that I've got set up pre-set up is my charts, and this is the latest Navigraph. The new Navigraph charts are absolutely outstanding. I'm really liking the charts, and so right now here is the Buffalo Airport. I've also got the Buffalo Jepson chart here. There is the Windy 2 arrival going into Chicago. We're going to be picking it up at Flint, Michigan here. Then I think I'm going to probably go for 28 Center. It's a little bit shorter taxi. Chicago right now is landing on 27 right and 28 Center. Here is the airport. So there's 28 Center. And we're heading on over to gate Charlie 27. So Charlie 27 is right over here out in the Sea Concourse of Chicago. So we're all set and ready to go. How did I know about gates? That's a question I get an awful lot over on the Spy Flight. And for flights like this, one of the things you're going to find at most airports, not all of them, is gate information. So the real flight left gate 12, which is where we're sitting right now, and we're going to go into gate C27. So that's where it is that I find that information. All right, enough yapping. Let's start doing what flight sim pilots are here to do, and that's push buttons in a simulated cockpit. Here in the PMDG, go over to FS Actions. I'm going to go to Ground Services, and we already have ground power plugged into the airplane. I'm going to call the jetway over, and if we look outside, you can see that the jetway is coming on over, so the pilots don't have to jump into the airplane or climb up a rope or hope somebody has a ladder. So now we've got a jetway, and that's all taken care of for us. So with the jetway down there, we're going to go to page 2. And page 2 is fuel. Fuel we're going to get off the flight plan. And I'm using the Lido style of chart flight plan that comes out of SimBrief. And go to page 3, and if you look, your fuel says 17.8. The big number is 17,779. So let's go ahead and get 17,779. And we're going to put that in for our fuel. And let's call the fuel truck right now. Let's get ready, get that going. Coming over here, we are going to have, now this is going to be on page 3, the number of passengers. So page 3 from the Lido style, our passengers are 159. So 159 passengers, and we'll put that in the target there for passengers. We're going to go to the next page after that, and we have 2 cargo bays, forward and aft. This thing gives you a total number for cargo, 9.3. So if you're not that great at math early in the morning like I am, go 9.3 in the calculator, divided by 2 is 4.65. So there, yeah, use the calculator if it's early in the morning. I haven't even had, 5 sips of my coffee yet. So that's how it is that you can figure that out. So go 4.65. That goes up front, and 4.65, that goes in the back. And now let's go ahead and hit the request buttons here, and that gets all of the ground stuff moving. So we've got the jetway in. You can see the fuel truck is here, and there's the PMDG fuel truck. And look at that. Hey, there goes one of our little baggage loaders. Now, one of the things that you can use is you can also use GSX for a lot of this. I think GSX right now still needs just a little bit of work. They're doing a great job with it, but I also arguably need to spend a little bit more time learning about it too. All right, so we've got the ground crew doing its thing. Let's go on up here and start flipping buttons on the airplane. And the on switch for a Boeing 737 is this switch right here. And it's the battery switch. And if we come in over here, zoom up here. So there's 3 positions. It's off, battery, and on. We're going to go to battery and guard it. So we're good to go there. Now then, we're going to kind of come down here just a little bit. Ground power. We have ground power plugged in, so let's turn it on. And that starts turning on fans and stuff. And now we're going to come down here, and we have position, strobe, and steady. So we're going to go up here and do steady. So steady is down here, and those are going to turn on the little lights that you see on the wingtips of the airplanes. And when you see the little green light over on the right side, and the red light over on the left side, and the white light on the tail, which I don't see. Maybe it's in there. Maybe there's the white light. Anyhow, those are your position lights, and that's what tells people that there is somebody up front in the cockpit pushing buttons, and that airplane might start doing airplane things. Okay, so we've got those turned on right now. I'm going to come back over here, and over on the co-pilot side, I'm going to hit menu, and then we're going to do PMDG setup. Nope, not setup. We're going to do actions. I've already done a setup on this a long time ago. Probably ought to do an updated video on that. Go back to ground services, and if we look there, ground power is still in, jetway is in place, wheel chocks are in place. Fuel truck is ready to start fueling. Let's hit the start button on fueling. Let's go over here and we can start loading the bags. And let's also come here and we're going to start those passengers running down the jetway because we got 159 of them. While we're doing stuff like this, let's come on up here and we're going to turn on the left rear fuel pump. And when the low pressure light goes out, we're going to slide over here and we're going to run down here and we're going to turn on the APU. I think the airline is going to go ahead and turn on the APU before they let the passengers run down the jetway because this is how we're going to get some ventilation into the cockpit here. I should have also turned on recirculating fans as I was powering up the cockpit here. So we're going to get those turned on. I am also going to turn on the windshield heaters, the window heaters up front. We've got snow outside and it's going to be kind of nasty. A little bit fuzzy on exactly which ones you do first and when. There are the hydraulic pumps here. And we've got engines that are already switched to on, but I'm not sure exactly when you turn on the electrical hydraulic pumps, but we're going to go ahead and get the electric hydraulic pumps online too. And our APU has come up. We've already got the APU bleed switch turned on. So that's this switch here. There's the APU bleed. We have the isolation valve open. So as the APU starts up, look at that. There's the duct pressure. One of the things the APU does is runs air through all of the ventilation ducts in the airplane. And you can see it's just kind of getting started here. So it kind of popped up, and then we're also going to turn on the left and right packs here. This is going to be heating and air conditioning, essentially. We got to make the airplane nice and warm, too. Okay. Airplane is in pretty good shape. Let's go to the FMC. We're going to check our nav data, November 3rd through December 1st, so our nav data is accurate. The next thing we're going to do is come all the way up here, and we're going to turn on the navigation stuff. And here's the nav. So there's two IRSs. So we're going to do IRS 1 and IRS 2 to navigation. You can come over here and you can turn the switch over here to heading and status, and then turn the brightness up. And if you start to see numbers appear here, that means we've at least got part one of this done. We're not done yet with this. So come on back down here to the flight management computer and do position init. And we are at KBUF, Buffalo Airport. Pop that in. We are at gate 12. Some airports know the gates, other gates don't. This one is one. This is a freeware airport, and it looks like they're doing a really nice job on this airport. So you can put your gate information here. And one of the things is if you look over on your Jepson charts, there's usually going to be gate information. We're at gate 12, so that's 4256-1. And it says 4256-2, but that's probably our gate position there. So pretty cool. You can go and get your a good latitude and longitude. Put this down here in the scratch pad, and then put it up here in set IRS. And now all of a sudden, if we look up here, we may see these numbers are changing a bit. So yeah, the IRS is going to be changing now as we start aligning the system. It takes about 7 minutes in the real world. You could also do it instantaneously if you want to do that. Since I'm using SimBrief, one of the things that you can do is use the SimBrief downloader. You can download that free from SimBrief. And if you've done your flight plan through SimBrief, SimToolkit Pro through SimBrief, either way, you can go to the downloader and just hit export. And if you've already set paths to your various airplanes that you're doing this with, that takes care of it. We've just downloaded weather and flight plan information and all sorts of stuff. If I've read everything correctly, we won't be doing that as soon as the electronic flight bag comes out. That's something we'll all be doing through what will end up being the an iPad over here. And that's going to be exciting. I really can't wait to see what happens with the iPad, the EFB here in the PMDG airplane. So you can see KBUF is still in the scratch pad here. Put that into the origin. And since we've done the downloader, we can request the flight plan. And there's our flight plan, Buffalo to O'Hare. Select it. And it's downloading it now. Let's go over here and check the progress of the ground crew. So 77 passengers are already aboard. Fueling, we've got 14,000 pounds of fuel already done. And they've got about 3,000 pounds of cargo loaded. So we're doing pretty good there. The route uplink is now ready, so we can come down here and hit load. And it loads in the flight plan into the flight management computer. While this is going on, I'm going to pan over here, and you see where it says main panel. Lights, I'm going to turn this far left thing. You can see the backlighting starts to go up just a little bit. I think it makes it a little easier to see things. Down here at the bottom end of the pedestal, you can do the same thing with that one. It just makes it easier to read stuff, and so I like to turn those up. And then there's also a third one, and that's this up here. So go to panel brightness up there. And again, it just makes it easier to see stuff on your control panel. And there is our flight. all of our data is in. We are flying as United Airlines, flight 301 today. So 301 is our flight number. That can go in there. Let's activate the flight plan and execute it. And so all of that is looking good. Over here on the baggage handling, you see the green start has gone out, 4650. We've loaded all the bags, so let's go ahead and release the baggage carts now, because the ground crew is done doing that. Let's go back. 103 passengers are aboard, and 17, we're done with fueling. Let's release the fuel truck. And now if you look out here, you can come and watch everybody drive away. The ground crew is done doing that, so now it's time for the pilots to start pilot stuff. Going to start off with departure and arrival. Our departure is going to be off of runway 23. And sometimes I forget early in the morning, so I'll just look at my note, 23, and hit execute. There is the Buffalo 8 departure. I didn't see that, so let's go over here. Get out of this. Come over here. Let's go back. Get Buffalo. Charts. Departures. There is the Buffalo 8 departure, which is probably just vectors off the runway. Yeah, it's vectors to a waypoint. And I think that, so this is vectors to Jamestown, vectors to London, vectors to Driver, Rochester. Our first waypoint is Durlow, so they're probably just going to direct us to Durlow. It's first thing in the morning. There's not a lot of traffic. They want to get us out of here. So let's just go ahead and go with what we have here. So that looks pretty good. That runway is active. We'll go ahead and punch it in and execute it, but we really aren't going to do much with it, I don't think. Back to the index page, O'Hare. We think we're going to be coming in on 28 center, and we're coming in on the windy arrival. So windy 2 via Flint, Michigan. We'll put in Vogler, but we're not going to go as far out as Vogler. And so that's about all we're going to do with that. Now go to legs. So yep, off the runway, vectors to Durlow, Kittock, Tanko. There's Flint. There's Emma right there. Latour. This is basically the star coming in. Vectors off BAM to Vogler and into the airport. We have a flight plan. Go back to the route page and performance initialization. Flight plan for us today says we are going all the way up to flight level 340. That's on page 1. So 34,000 feet. So all you do is 340 on this airplane. And that goes into cruise. Winds. This is our average winds. The flight plan gives that over here on page 1. Average winds, 280 at 64 knots. So 280 at 64. Got to hit the 4 and then put that into winds. Okay, reserve fuel. That's here at the bottom over on the fuel side. And what you want is this number here, final reserve and alternate fuel. So that's enough fuel to get to our alternate, which is Detroit, and then 30 minutes of holding time and twisting and turning time, and then 15 minutes of, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now time? And that's supposed to be 6,962. So we decimal point it, and we do 6.9. And that goes in there. Cost index is on page 1. It's at the top. Cruise system CI is 35, which I think is standard for United for short flights in a 737. So cost index goes in there. And all that looks good. Okay, fuel tank is gone. Passengers are loaded. Oh, wow, it's time to get going here. So all of this is looking really good. So what we can do here is we can hit the zero fuel weight button, and that's going to give us our final zero fuel weight based on passengers and cargo and stuff. So let's go ahead and execute that. Now then, remember I was talking about topper? So let's come and do a few topper things here. And we're going to start by putting in the airport KBUF. And we know we're running off of runway, taking off of 23. Winds, I've got my winds. I went and got the METARs. Buffalo is 200 at 14. And by the way, that little notepad you just saw there, look in the description below. That's how I keep notes on a flight. You can copy and paste that into your own notepad and use it. All of that data is going to be in there from this flight. So 200 at 14. Now, your weather is probably going to be different than mine because you're watching this as a basically a VOD type of a deal. So by doing that, I forgot to go to Imperial. Sorry. I was going to say, why did that pop up there? I'm flying an old school Boeing. It's an 800, so change it to 800 and Imperial. Sorry. And anyhow, I forgot what I was yapping about there. 3020 is the altimeter. And then the takeoff weight. So for takeoff weight, what I've been doing is I've been just taking the gross weight right now until I find the actual number, which is 150 at set 150,150,600. Excuse me, need more coffee. That's not correct. I need to actually get the takeoff. I'm just not finding the right spot yet, but I will find it soon. And now let's hit calculate. This is kind of good enough for sim work, but it's not the exact number. Select temperature right here, so 67 degrees. That is going to be our D rate. It's flex over in Airbus. D rate in Boeing, so 67 degrees. So 67 goes up there. Hit the takeoff page. So let's see, what did it give us? Flaps 5. So flaps 5. So we'll put a 5 up there. Just click center of gravity. And that's going to put center of gravity and give you your trim setting for takeoff. And then V-speeds. V-speeds over here on topper. So this says 145, 146, 147. So 145. The airplane itself said 139. So you can see that the numbers are relatively close. 146 and 147. But I've been enjoying using topper. Now then, let's also come up here and put 147 in our IAS Mach for our initial speed off the runway. So 147. Some airplanes you add 10 knots to that. I don't know if this is one of those airplanes that you add 10 knots to or not. Okay, over here to charts. And over here, we are taking off on runway 23. So that's 235 degrees is going to be our heading off the runway. So 235. 235. And then, especially if you're on VATSIM really wants to make sure that you're taking a look at your departure chart and look for something called the top altitude or your cleared altitude. We are cleared to 10,000 feet as our initial climb clearance. So all of that's good. With those 3 bits of data in the autopilot, now is when I turn on my flight directors. So flight directors are on. Everything's looking good to go here. Passengers are aboard. The ground crew is clear. Baggage handlers, everybody's clear. So we're going to go hit return, hit doors, and let's go and close the main door to the cabin. And if you've got a quick view set up, you can go watch the door close. And our door is now closed. When doors close on a jetliner, seatbelts go on. Seatbelts are on. We can also arm the emergency exit lights. And while we're up here, let's also go ahead. The APU is on. We're going to go ahead and put the APU generator online here. And with the APU generator online, we can come down here and we can return ground services. And we are going to release the ground power cart. And we're going to release the jetway. And if you go outside, you'll see eventually the ground power cart just disappears and the jetway drives away. And everything's looking good here. I'm going to turn off that caution for the moment. And everything's looking good. We're about ready to move the airplane. Our squawk code's going to be 2000. So even though we're not on VATSIM, I like to squawk mode Charlie on the taxiway just because, you know. Let's also get ready for tug. So the tug is going to get connected. So I'm going to turn on my parking brakes. And all of this is clear. So return, pushback. We're going to do a straight pushback here today. It's going to push me back 262, I think, feet. So that's probably pretty good. So let's choose the tug. And let's start that tug too. Up here, everything is looking pretty good. I've forgotten to turn on my yaw dampers. We're going to get those turned on. Everything else is looking good for this. Let's go ahead and do anti-collision. And parking brakes are off. And if you come back here, you can even watch the push a little bit too. And look at all the snow. The snow is going to look really pretty good. For the longest time, we didn't get good, accurate snow maps and stuff that were put in as far as scenery. Now we've got really great snow. There we go. Oh, there's somebody standing out in the snow. Not probably the happiest of campers right now because it's cold. And here's our push. We're away from the gate area, so let's go ahead and start up some engines. And we're going to go and start by doing fuel pumps first. I'm going to do that first, make sure there's pressure. And then I'm going to turn off the packs because that's what's keeping the passengers comfy. And those are all on. And let's go and ground start engine number 2. We're going to look down here and see if engine 2 is starting. And the N2 is starting to go up, so that's good news. And we're looking for 25% on the N2. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Fuel. And you'll even hear the fuel tank, the engine going up back here. Startup sounds on this airplane really are good. They pushed us back to the crew line there. That's really good. Cabin's okay. The cabin's modeled fairly nice. And I bet the ground crew's done. They want parking brakes. Toe brakes in, then pull the lever on this airplane. And engine number 2 is started. Let's go ahead and start engine 1. Ground start.
Steering pin is pulled. Watch for the salute and release from guidance on your right. Have a good flight.
All right, there we go. Now that that is cleared, I'm going to go to progress on the co-pilot side. Waiting for our 25% here. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And there goes the fuel. I forgot to set my cruise altitude, and I think that was 35,000 feet. So cruise altitude goes up here in cabin pressurization. 34,000 is our final cruise today. We also need to go over here and we can look at the chart real fast for Chicago O'Hare. O'Hare is 680 feet above sea level. So that's going to be, rounding that up, it's going to be 700 for our landing altitude. Actually, no, 680 would be closer to 7. And we're getting a good start on engine number 1. And all of this seems to be coming together here. Yep, we got a good start on engine 1. So first things first, let's go ahead. I'm going to turn off the isolation valve. We're going to turn on packs, keep the passengers comfy. Now that we've also got this, let's go ahead and get the generators off the APU and onto the engines. That looks good. Probe heaters. Now that the ground crew is away from the nose of the airplane, we're going to turn those on. Those get really hot. And with everything stable here, we're going to disconnect. We're going to close the APU bleed. And at that point, we can turn off the APU. And just do a quick up and down. I usually turn the electric monitoring over to generator 1. And everything else looks pretty good up here. Looking down here, all of this is good. Oh, somebody didn't set his altimeter, which is 3020. So 3020. 3020. Altimeter is set. Okay, that looks good. Everything else is looking pretty good. We're squawking mode Charlie on the taxiway. We're going to look out there, looking good. We're going to look out there, looking good. I think it's taxi time. So up here, nose lights going on. And the nose light's good. We're going to ring the bell for the cabin crew, let them know that we're going to start rolling the airplane around on our own. And just tap your toe brakes, and that turns that off. We are going to go this way, so add a little power here. You probably have noticed I did not throw out my flaps yet. A lot of airlines, when you're pushing back from the gate, you preset your flaps and everything before you start taxiing so that your attention is on the taxi. Because there's snow on the ground, though, airlines will delay setting the flaps and stuff until you get closer to the runway, because there's a bunch of snow and ice and junk on the ground here, and you don't want all of that to get in your flap mechanism, because that will cause a flap. And I believe that is your first dumb joke for today's flight. Found that it's just good to be patient with these jetliners. You know, patiently come on out like this and you should be fine. Especially when you're doing that little tight 90-degree turn. Now in Airbus, you just push the throttles up a little bit and you get going. Boeing needs a little bit more oomph to get going. It'll keep going, but it does want a little bit more power. And I suspect that maybe because there's snow and ice on the ground, maybe it's making things a little creaky here. The sounds inside the airplane, like I said, are absolutely amazing. Okay, taxiway Alpha to runway 23. Pretty simple on this one today. There's still some setup things that I haven't done yet. Again, try and do them all together, and since we're waiting till we get closer to takeoff down to the end of the runway before we do those. And it looks like the ground crew's done a pretty good job of clearing that far taxi line and also the taxi lights. So that's good. Cleared across runway 32. Now we're starting to pick up speed here. 16 knots. I'm going to roll my throttles back a little bit. My guess is you know, it's just if you're driving around on snow and ice, the roads are slick. My guess is it's probably kind of slick with things like this too. Getting close to the runway, so I'm going to go down here to, let's see, which one is flight controls? Elevators, ailerons, fast rudder. Don't want to make the passengers sick. Okay, we're going to turn systems off. We're going to go ahead and do engine instruments all up here. So that should make the bottom monitor clear. Getting close to the runway now. So how about flaps 5? Oh, those trees are really amazing. My throttles are now down to idle. Speed brake check. Speed brakes are working. And we're here at the end of the runway. Auto brakes. RTO. That looks good. Clearance for takeoff. So we're going to reset the fuel flow. We're going to come down here and squawk Terra. We are going to, since we're cleared onto the runway, we're going to switch over the navigation lights to nav and strobes. There's the end of the runway. We're going to do continuous start on our engines. We're going to let the cabin crew know, seats for takeoff. And there's the end of the runway. My guess is that they're probably going to be pretty nice and gentle on the takeoff. I mean, slowly put themselves and make sure that they're all set up on this, because I guess runways are probably slick too. Out we go. Landing lights. Auto throttle's engaged. We're nicely centered up. Throttles up just a little bit. Make sure they're stable. Looking good. Throttles up to 40%. Hit the auto thrust button at 40%. 40, stable, auto thrust. Hands on the throttles in case we're going to abort at V1. We get a caution or something. Little bit of right rudder.
80 knots.
Checked.
V1.
Hands off the throttles, up and away. Positive rate gear. So long, Buffalo. That's a lot of snow out there. You see our shadow right over there? There's the shadow of the airplane off the right wingtip. Looks like they got the interstate open. Okay, VNAV. And command. All right, there is Durlo over there. So let's go ahead and do direct, let's turn over to Durlo. Wow, is it snowy here. Okay, VNAV got turned off, so let's hit VNAV again. That'll get us speeded up just a little bit. Okay, we're sort of going towards Durlo, so let's do a direct 2. I'm going to go to legs, Durlo, put it in the top, execute it, come on up here, and LNAV. And now we're direct Durlo. Our speed's now finally coming on up a little bit. Let's see, we can go ahead and do auto brakes to off and turn the landing gear to off too. Speed is definitely coming up now, which is good. Make sure that our heading is fairly straight. 6,000 feet. And climb and maintain 17,000. That's usually what we get when we go over from tower to departure. And time for a couple notches of flaps. I doubt there's too many people on that golf course today. If they are, they're using orange balls. And speed's still coming up nicely. Let's get those leading edge slats up as we go out over a very frozen lake. I should have probably planned to do the takeoff numbers with anti-ice kicked in because, you know, icing. But it looked like kind of a clear day, so I guess we're in good shape. Let's do airports and data. And I usually kind of run this down to about 80 miles on this. If we were on VATSIM, we would be seeing traffic. Did I hit the traffic button? Nope, didn't hit the traffic button. I thought I turned that on. There's traffic. Airport's traffic and data. Passing 8,000 feet. Nothing to worry about here. Engines haven't fallen off the airplane. That's a good thing. Wings are still attached. Climb and maintain 24,000 feet. So slowly doing our climb out here. Coming up on 10,000 feet, so we're going to get our speed up. There's 10,000 feet landing lights. We'll do that nose light at the same time. And 10,000 foot cabin call. Let the cabin crew know that sterile cockpit is over. If they need to call us, they can. Still heading 286 degrees. 286 is our heading. Climb and maintain flight level 340. ATC is just moving us along today, which they usually do in the morning before things start to slow down. There's our speed coming up. Temperature outside the airplane is 5 degrees Celsius. And out we go. Progress over on our charts here. If we zoom it out a little bit like this, there we are coming out of Buffalo. And there's our nice little route today. Another way to track the flight if you don't have Navigraph, take a look at SimToolkit Pro or Volanta. And you can see there was our departure. So runway heading and then direct to. So not so bad. We are going to go over London. So we've already passed Niagara Falls. And we're going to go over Flint, Michigan. So just south of the thumb on the big glove there. The Michigan glove. And so that's another way you can also do flight tracking. Passing 12,000 feet. Next step in the process for us is 18,000 feet. That's altitude transition. So we'll reset the altimeters at 18,000 feet. But now we get to kind of sit back a little bit, reach for the coffee. If sometimes you kind of miss flying and, miss getting to go traveling and stuff like that, and, the world's crazy, one of the nice things to do with Microsoft Flight Simulator, set up a flight like this, get the autopilot going, and then you just get to sit and look out the window. Because the scenery is just so awesome. I do like to tell the story about one day. I was sitting at home watching some YouTube videos, and one of the YouTube videos was one of those full flight videos that people will put out there. They'll get on an airplane and take their cell phone and just record the flight out the window. So this was like a CRJ flight, and it was going into Denver. And I remember watching the video outside there and looking at and I said, wow, that looks like Microsoft Flight Simulator. And then bing, I said, wait a minute, that's real world. That's how good I think Microsoft Flight Simulator scenery is getting now. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. It's still going to be, on a computer. But wow, this is one of the best ways to be a virtual tourist for sure. If you're a United passenger, you can always go to the grocery store and get a package of Stroop waffles. They do sell them in grocery stores. And you can put one of those on your coffee cup if you're a real airplane geek and just need that feeling. Coming up on 18,000 feet here. And at 18,000 feet, we are going to hit the standard altimeter button. There it is, STD, and we are good to go. Let's also go ahead and ring the cabin crew again and let the cabin crew know it's smooth. They can get up and start doing cabin crew stuff. Everything else is looking good here at the moment. Generally, at this point, I'll leave progress over here, and I'll usually put this in climb, cruise, or descent mode just to monitor those numbers. This is also the place, let's say ATC calls and needs to speed us up and slow us down. You can put numbers in here, or it's easier in some cases to just hit speed intervention and put your own speeds in. Sometimes ATC is going to do that in the real world and in the sim world for sure. Right now the sim skies are pretty calm. I'm noticing a little bit of wing flex out there, so there's probably a couple little bumps still out there after, you know, a big storm like this comes through the area. As we're doing our thing, one of the things that I will do is I will, after takeoff, I'll come back to Sim Toolkit Pro. I think you can do this with Volanta too. Hit the METAR button, and we're just going to go ahead and snag the latest METAR. And I'll put those over in my flight notes. This is the flight notes that you'll see at the description that you can cut and paste. So we could do that. One of the other things that we could do is we could also open up the web browser here, and we can go to DIST. So how's the real United Flight 301? It landed 8 minutes ago. So another happy landing. Looks like they landed on, let's see, what did they do? Oh, they landed on the north side runway. They had the long taxi. We're not doing that one. So what we can do, though, is we can go over here to, there is a search I did. Let's go to DIST. Link in the description for this, by the way. This is digital ATIS for the United States for a lot of the big airports. Some of the smaller airports are starting to, or the medium size are starting to pop in here, not the smaller ones. So let's look for KORD, LMNORD. There we go, Chicago O'Hare. Oh my gosh, information Kila. So let's see, 220 at 16, gusting to 23. It's windy in the Windy City, 10 miles visibility. Few clouds, 22,000. It's -1 in Chicago. The altimeter is 3007. Vectors for the ILS, 27 center, 27 right, 28 center. So our runways are pretty good here. Okay, we could get 27 center. 27 center is a little bit better for United. So 27 center, that's a little bit better than 27 right. How if we go to 27 center? It's easy to do that. Changes, and you know, one of the things is you should expect changes like this too. So let's go ahead and plan now for 27 center. Bring your charts over here. Come on down here. Let's go ahead and I'm going to change my number here. 27 center, just because I haven't had a lot of coffee and I need, you know, to remind myself sometimes. So we're going to come down here. Let's get out of this. Let's get rid of 28 center. So edit and delete it and be done. Now let's come over here into charts. Go back, get Chicago. Charts, approach, and we're going for, this is why I wrote it down, 27 center. There's 27 center. We're going to pin that down there. We're not going back to Buffalo, so let's go edit, and we're going to get rid of the Buffalo charts too. You can with this, the new Navigraph, you can hit that sync button, but it doesn't let you delete certain things. And so when I'm done with my departure airports, I basically like to get rid of the charts from that stack at the bottom early in the morning. And now we have 27 center, a much better runway for us. So slide that over there. Now we also have to change it down in the flight management computer. So departure and arrival, 27 center, 27 center. We're still going to be on the Windy 2. We're still coming in via Flint, Michigan. I'm not going to do Vogler. That's just too far out. We're not going to go that far out. Okay, let's clear this. Let's go into legs and see how we're doing. There's Durlo, Kiddock, Tanko. There's Flint. There's Emma, Latour, Vito, Ernie, Bam, and then our runway. So all of that looks much better. Back to the climb page. 34 miles to the top of climb. I do like to, even if I'm in a VATSIM event and stuff like that, I do like to keep up to date on what's going on at the arrival airport, where we're coming into, make sure that there's some changes. And the reason that I like to do that is because this is a two-person cockpit. One person in the two-person cockpit flies, one person does everything else. But in flight sim, you're usually sitting here all alone. So if you can stay ahead of stuff, that's a really good thing to do. Let's come down here, and if you look off to the side, you can see the snow line. And from what I understand, that's a relatively accurate snow line. So there's the line of snow right there. How about that? Pretty cool, pretty awesome. There's a little trick that I will do. We're not on VATSIM, but let's go ahead and just pop in for a second and see. So here is vPilot. Let's first of all go into the VATSIM world to make sure that I'm not intruding in somebody's airspace. So let's go. Here's the VATSIM map. And I don't see... Okay, the only ATC is ground and ATIS at Boston. So we're good to do this. Slide over here. Let's go and connect. 441, we are a B738. So we're 737-800 and connect. One of the things that I also like to talk a little bit about is, staying ahead of stuff, because there's one person in a two-person cockpit and things are getting kind of complex and busy here. So over here in vPilot, here's all of the information, and you see controllers in range. If there was any ATC in the area, we would see center, approach and departure, tower, ground, delivery, ATIS, observers. We would see if Chicago had popped up, okay? And if Chicago had popped up like that, we would see that, Chicago center is up, and we would have a frequency. So I'm doing several monitors here. I've got my main monitor for the game there, and then you probably see me dragging stuff to the other monitor. If you've got another monitor, so I try and keep this thing, especially this area right here where I can see the controllers in range and frequency, just right off to the side. So that if I'm flying along, all I have to do is kind of just look right over there, and I can see, there is Chicago Center's popped up. And I can come down here and get their frequency preset. As I'm coming into an airport, I can look over there and see, okay, there's departure, there's tower, and there's ground. And I can get those frequencies in advance and preset those. This is a real time saver, especially if you're new in the world of VATSIM, because you're going to be busy. And if you can start thinking ahead as far as your frequencies, that really is going to save a little bit of stress in your world. So we are here on VATSIM. What can we do? We could probably stay here. Why don't we stay on VATSIM? So one of the things we have to do is we have to pre-file the flight plan. So let's go to flight, and let's come down here and hit the VATSIM button. And that should open up a web browser. And United 301, 737, Buffalo to O'Hare, 340, file. And if it sits there and spins and spins and spins, just disconnect from VATSIM and maybe hit the spinning thing again. And then you'll get the, flight plan is filed. Then go back and relog back in, and now we could just stay on VATSIM if we wanted to. I think it's kind of a good idea to do things like this, even though there's no ATC, because what this means is we're going to have to announce our intentions. And if you're new to VATSIM, announcing intentions like we're going to do is a great way to start learning how to talk airplane and talk on VATSIM. And we just got the altitude alert. We are approaching our final cruising altitude at 34,000 feet. I'm going to go turn seatbelts to auto. That's going to let anybody that had too much Starbucks back at the airport go to the bathroom because they had too much coffee. I should have also turned off my engine starters at about 10,000 feet or so, I think. And there we go, 34,000 feet. And we see over here, we are in, just put us in cruise mode. And we probably switched us to cruise there. We're 246 miles to top of descent. And it'll hold us at 34,000 feet. I have a feeling I forgot something. I don't remember what it was. I did not use a checklist on this flight. And that's another thing. With these increasingly complex airplanes, I do suggest checklists. One of the things that you could do is you can go out on the internet and you could do Boeing 737 800 space PDF space checklist. And that will probably get you a link to a real-world checklist. And you can see I printed up a few and put them in a little plastic sleeve. And I use them just like the real-world pilots to not forget what it is that I'm not supposed to forget here. And there you go. And now we just get to sit back and enjoy our stroopwafel and our coffee and start humming the tune Rhapsody in Blue if we want to. We are 238 miles from top of descent. The current time is 1450 Zulu. I'm flying real world time. So 1414, it says we're going to start our descent at 1450 Zulu. So that means we've got a little bit of cruising to do here. I think it's a little slow because we have a 70 knot cross headwind blowing us right in our face. So our ground speed is only 380 knots right now. So we're kind of going a little on the slow side. Another thing we ought to do is let's keep track of our fuel. How is our fuel progress going? And we do that over here on the progress page. And it says at Chicago O'Hare, we should have 9,600 pounds of fuel in the tanks when we land. Look over at your flight plan and look over here at final reserve. And we were supposed to have 6,900 based on these three numbers here. Final reserve fuel, which is 30 minutes of flying time. Contingency fuel, which is 15 minutes of flying time, and alternate fuel, which is the fuel you need to get to your alternate airport. Those three numbers together equal this number right here, 6,962. I also boarded an additional 30 minutes of fuel. I just generally do that now. I add an extra 30 minutes of fuel just because I'm gonna, if I decide to pop onto VATSIM and there's a delay or a hold, I'm prepared. So we are great as far as fuel is concerned. We're doing really good as far as the airplane. I think it's time for an in-flight breakfast. So generally what I will do on flights like this is I will hit pause on the recorder. You should hit pause about now too if you're flying along with me. And what you do is keep an eye on this, and when this thing says between 90 and 100 miles to top of descent, start playing the video again, and we'll kind of pick it up from there. Otherwise, you're gonna have to sit here and listen to me tell really, really bad jokes, and nobody wants to do that. So, it's breakfast time. See you about 90 to 100 miles from top of descent. welcome back. Well, let's see. It was a very, very nice breakfast here, and then I got treated to a internet outage here. So this is going to be interesting to see what happens to us when we come on into Chicago O'Hare, and we'll see how that works. You know, Microsoft Flight Simulator does rely on scenery download. Now, I've been into O'Hare before, and maybe I've got some cached stuff. I also have the payware for O'Hare too, so it's going to be interesting to see what's going on as far as what works and what doesn't. This will be a nice, interesting test. How we doing here? Well, let's see. We are 62 miles from top of descent. So we've got a top of descent indicator that has just popped in over here. Before we had the internet outage, I did get the latest weather information out of Chicago. Chicago is still information Kila, so no changes as far as that is concerned. So that's the good news there. Let's see, didn't update the heading. So let's re-update this to 268 degrees, so that looks good too. Let's see, this airplane is really cool. It's one of the things I really like about the 737. You can preset your altimeter for standard altimeter from standard to the airport. So 3007, it's already set, and all you have to do is hit a button. That's really nice because when the workload increases, we get busy in here. Okay, charts. Got to have a quick look here. Hopefully the charts are still going to work too. Generally, I found, so this, like everything, requires you to be online. So we should be able to see everything. Yep, we're going to be able to see these. If you've already got them and you've got them down here, usually that's good enough for you. You're going to be able to download, get them even if you have an internet outage. And it looks like the internet's back on, so we're in good shape there. It did boot me off of VATSIM, so my big VATSIM experiment isn't going to happen. So coming in here at Flint, Michigan, the windy arrival doesn't really give us a bunch of altitudes. ATC sets those, so what I'm going to do here is look for my final plunge altitude. That's the final altitude before we start our final descent in, and that's 2,200 feet. So let's come on over here and go to 2,200 feet. And see what happens. And down we go there. So there is 2,200. Now, it did yell at me and say that I've been kicked to offline mode. So if you do have an internet outage at home, what do we have to do anything? Oh, look at this. It answered the question. Successfully connected. It's nice that it put it up here. I really hate the big boxes that are in front of you, though, because invariably it pops into your face right in the middle while you're trying to land. So it would be really nice to have something off to the side. So that would be nice if they would do that. Okay, I think we're in pretty good shape here. The only other things that I like to do for prior to descent is let's set the ILS, which is 111.9. So 111.9 goes into via Nav Radio 1. If we were on VATSIM and there were other runways that they're using, I would have a secondary runway set in here and have that all ready to go. There is not really a great VOR around the Chicago airport. There is one. It's kind of low power, so I don't usually bother, but if there is one around the airport, I will set that VOR in there too. Just to give me an extra DME distance to the airport up here, but we'll just go with what we've got here. This is just fine for Chicago. Okay, so we've got that set. We do need to set the inbound course. The inbound course to this is going to be 273 degrees. So that's over here on the course, 273. 273. We do need to set minimums. And minimums for this airplane, for this runway, for Category 1 are 853 feet in the barrel box. Radar is 200. So I generally feel like the barrel box, you got to click a lot. Let's see, you got a lot of clicking to do on the barrel here for minimums. Well, not really. So we could do 853. It's not that bad. So I'm cranking up here at the top of the screen, and I'm watching an indicator down here. So 853, right? Yeah, just hold it down. 853. There are some airports that it's so hard that high that you just stay forever. You're cranking for a long time. And in other airplanes, it's worse. So there's 853 degrees in the Barrow. So minimums are set too. And our new heading is 262 degrees. So 262, I always like to keep that updated. And we're doing good. 41 miles to top of descent. So that looks good too. All right. All is right with the world. So we'll also, if I'm on a VATSIM event at an airport that I don't remember too well, I will also kind of brief myself on what will probably happen when we land. So we think we're coming in on 28 Center here. So that means we're probably going to get off at Papa 2 or Papa 1. Generally what happens is O'Hare ATC will bring us in on Delta Delta, and Delta Delta usually to Lima or Kila. Now, I will tell you that the scenery here is off from the map. The map's a little old, the scenery's not quite synced up, so they're going to tell you probably to come around here and get off at Alpha 9. So this is kind of how we're going to expect to do this. This is a little bit of a crazy area here as far as Chicago. But this is usually the way that we do this. And then our gate is going to be over here, Charlie 27. So we'll come in here after Alpha 9. We'll make a left turn, a right turn, coming in on taxi lane Charlie, and come to the gate and park, and then go and grab more very expensive coffee. So, hey, we're in great shape, right? All this is looking really good. Top of descent is less than 40 miles out. And let's see, it says it's going to happen in 30 miles at 14:51 Zulu. The current time is 14:47 Zulu. So it looks like it's going to happen in about 5 minutes. Have you ever wondered how it is that the pilots know make the pre-descent about 5 to 10 minutes? That's how they know 5 to 10 minutes before descent. So the pilots would get on the PA and say, hey, we're about 5-10 minutes from our descent into Chicago. And then they'll tell you about the Chicago weather and if it's going to be bumpy. And, you know, we're going to be able to leave the seatbelt sign on for another 5-10 minutes. So anybody's got some last-minute business you need to take care of, you know, go now or wait till we get to the gate, sort of a deal. So that's how they know how, you know, the flight management computer. Now, let's say we don't have a fancy flight management computer. In the old days, they had a pencil, a piece of paper, and a watch. And they knew what their they knew what the airspeed was and tried to figure out ground speed, and they had to do a lot of math. And that was kind of the hard part of what the job was like for them there. So the flight management computers made life a lot easier. So we're just about ready to exit the coast here in Michigan. So not bad there. Let's look down here. And usually we're sitting back. Yep, there's the coast. Uh-oh. Looks a little bit icy along the coast too. Looks a little bit icy. So this is usually the seat I like to book. Somewhere around the left side of the airplane, just a little bit in front of the engine. I can see the engine, the wings. I get a nice view of the ground. So 10A, I guess, is my idea of a perfect window seat. Everything else is pretty much set for our descent. The only other things that we could possibly set up here is going to be auto brakes. We could set speed brakes. I'll usually wait until we get into the descent before we start doing things like that. 261, the heading is changed by another click. This airplane, of course, will start its descent automatically. The newer Airbuses want you to push a button. The old MD, McDonnell Douglas, the MD-80, the Mad Dog, you can set a descent. The older Airbus, the new default, you know, freebie, any builds airplane, which is really has become a favorite airplane for me. You can set a profile descent too, and it will automatically descend, which is really pretty convenient too, especially if you're a single pilot, you know, in the sim world that we're in here. I think that that's really about all we could do. We do need to be ready for icing. Clouds out there, as far as the clouds coming in. O'Hare is... there's a few clouds at 22,000, few clouds at 25,000. It's -1, so we need to be ready for potential icing. Let's see, another thing is since I did lose the internet, let's just go and hit the refresh button here and see. Information Kila is still up, still current at Chicago O'Hare. So that's good to go too. You may hear me mispronouncing Information K. I know it's Kilo. One of the moderators over on the Spy Flight on Twitch is named Kila, so it's always Information Kila. So there we go. And this is probably a good time to mention, if you've just discovered this on YouTube, we do an awful lot of group flying together on Twitch. Tuesday through Sunday, 1900 Zulu is our departure time. In the winter time, that's 2 p.m. Eastern time in the United States. The first flight is almost always just a chill out, answer questions, chat, have fun, flight someplace that you can join in on. And then usually after that, we're doing a flight on VATSIM. And you're always welcome to join over there. The community you're going to find is really knowledgeable. We've got... we're a growing number of real-world pilots, real-world airline pilots that come by and say hi, and it's really, really nice. We've started our descent. So anyhow, it's 757 Spy over on Twitch. There's also been thinking, mostly what I do here on YouTube is once a week I do one of these, you know, let me show you every button that I'm pushing, complete cold and dark flights. I know you can live stream on YouTube. I need to start learning a little bit about how to do that. So if that's something you'd like to see, I'm also new enough on YouTube that I read all the comments. So anything that you'd like to see, the comment section gets read, I promise you. Even the nasty ones, and there are not that many nasty ones. Okay, our descent is pretty good. One thing to do when you're coming in on your descent is keep track of this, the deviation, the descent deviation meter. And no, it doesn't have to do with my deviant jokes or anything like that. This lets you know how high or low are you on your descent. Are you a little too high, a little bit too low? And I got to tell you, it works really good, and that's what I keep an eye on. If another one that you can look at is over here, and there is also a little triangle here, and that's going to give you an idea of, you know, have you deviated from your descent path very much? So that helps out a little bit too. As we're coming in here, we've made a bit of a turn, so 254 degrees is our new heading. So we keep that updated just in case the autopilot fails, and that keeps the little bug up here, heading bug up here set, so we know which direction to fly the airplane. As the map gets a little bit more congested like this, I'm going to go ahead and start zooming it in a bit, so let's go to the 40-mile map. All we're doing is coming in over the lake right now, not an awful lot of hills or anything like that. But one pilot usually has terrain radar, the other pilot has weather radar up. You can also see we got a little bit of a snow line here in the Chicagoland area too. So 'tis the season to start looking at snow in North America and also Europe. I'm looking forward to a few flights later on this week over on Twitch in Europe to see where there's some snow. Not like the 6 feet of snow that they had in Buffalo, but I'm guessing there's a little snow there too. We've come out of the crunched up map areas to the map that's trackable, and you can see we're coming up on windy here. And so after that, it's going to be, we should be exiting this at Pappy for landing to the west. Let's see if the flight plan did that. So go to legs. Windy, Ernie, Pappy. It's got tubes. After tubes, it's got Vulcankirk and bam. So it's already preloaded that in. What we need to do is we need to exit this at Ernie. And so that by that point in time, we should expect vectors. We're not on VATSIM, so we will vector ourselves after Ernie. And you'll also start to see, so there's Jumbo over there. Jumbo is our entry into the ILS. So there's Jumbo there. So we can really kind of see after Ernie, we'll be making the turn to Jumbo. A great way to do that is as we approach Ernie, we could do a direct to Jumbo, and that would get us just right, nicely set up for us. So to do that, we would be over here in legs, and let's wait till we get closer to Ernie, and then we'll do the direct to. Yeah, there it is right there. Want to be to 4,000 feet. We're at 25,000 there. So this is 220. Let's go ahead and change this to 4. And we're going to put that at 4. That looks good over there. Now that's 4, not 3. There we go. And out over the water. As I recall, this one is a fairly nice approach to into Chicago. Some passengers get a really nice view of the downtown shoreline at Chicago, which is really pretty neat. As we're coming in here, I'm going to go ahead and start doing some more landing things. I'm going to go and do auto brakes 3. Don't really need to worry about anything here. We might also look at the init menu here, and this is going to give us approach references. I like to land this airplane at flaps 30. I don't know if that's good or not, but flaps 30 is 148 knots. If it's a shorter runway, then, you know, we could go to flaps 40. See, we should probably do seat belts. I usually try to do that between 20 and 25,000 feet, depending upon whether or not there's turbulence. So we're good there. Definitely a little bit of snow out there. 'Tis the season. I'm recording this the week of the Thanksgiving holiday in the United States. Okay, we are about 10 miles away from Ernie right now. So ATC is probably going to say turn left heading 210 degrees. So left to 210 degrees. So let's hit heading select. And that's going to take us pretty much direct to Jumbo. So direct 210. And let's also let's call it 200 degrees. There's our line. That's even better to Jumbo. We are what are we, about 20 miles out? We're kind of a little bit high, it seems like, on this descent. We're also probably a little bit fast. We need to start slowing this airplane down just a little bit. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to start reducing my speed here, and we're going to start to throw out some speed brakes. And let's also go ahead and continue to reduce the speed here. Yeah, now as we're starting to get a little bit closer, all of a sudden the computer caught up with us here for our descent deviation. I'm going to go ahead and just drop it down to 210 at this point. We've still got about 15,000 feet to go, and we've got to do this, oh, well, pretty short time. We're doing at about 1,100 feet per minute. I've still got speed brakes out here. If you've got a speed brake handle in your, in your sim cockpit, like the Thrustmaster TCA Airbus has a handle, One of the things that the real world pilots talk about is on an approach like this, if they have to use speed brakes, if at all possible, they like to keep their hand on the speed brake handle so that they don't forget that the speed brakes are out. Let's go ahead and get jumbo, and we're going to put it at the top and do direct to jumbo, and let's see what this is doing for our descent. And now all of a sudden it says, gee, you're a little bit high. Yeah, it doesn't like us here. It doesn't like us much at the moment. We're 13,000 feet high. Probably should have gone direct to jumbo sooner so the computer could have helped me out. Okay, we're at 210 knots. That means we can do a notch of flaps. That's going to help keep us slower too. 18,000 feet. This is one of the cool things. We just go ahead and hit the altimeter button and it sets the altimeter. So neat. Okay, we got 10 miles to jumbo. So this is not working out so well for us. ATC has said you're too high. We're going to vector you around. So I'm going to put the speed brakes away, and they're going to say head 180 degrees. So 180 degrees. We're going to do the old loop-de-loop trick here to burn off some altitude. Now in Chicago, if we're in the real world, they would have had us at a better level right now. But in this case, we're going to go ahead, and what we're going to do is we're going to fly over the over the approach into the runway, and we're going to go a few miles beyond that, and then we're going to turn to the east, turn to the north, and turn to the west. And that should line us up, giving our passengers here a nice view of the Chicago shoreline. And it looks like a little bit of ice showing up along the Chicago shoreline too. There was stuff over on the Michigan side. Now, here you see jumbo. Over here you see the little dashed line. That's sort of the extended runway line. As we go over that, watch this diamond right here. So this diamond's going to go zip. And when it goes zip, we'll start our turns. There's the zippiness going on. So now we're about ready to cross over the line. So if we look out here, hey, there's Chicago. There's the runway right over there. So it goes right over the line. We'll wait till we get on the other side. And then it goes over there onto the other end of this. And I'm going to wait till it stops. Now, 090 degrees. Turn east. 090. We are at 15,000 feet. We want to be at 4,000 feet. So, okay, half of that's going to be about 6. So let's wait, let's go out to about 7,000 and turn back in and, cut it in half, and that should work for us pretty good. Our speed's pretty good. So yeah, about 7 or 8. When we get to about 7,000 or 8,000 feet, we'll turn back in. As of now, we are also not on the flight plan anymore, so we're being vectored about. So at this point in time, I was talking earlier about the importance of keeping an eye on your fuel. Well, right now we're expected to have 9.6. If I hadn't boarded 30 minutes of extra fuel, we would be getting closer to our minimum fuel. But we get to use the minimum fuel now because we're, twisting and turning around the airport here. Okay, there's 13,000. So maybe we'll go to about 10 and start our turn back to the airport. Might want to bring the map out a little bit bigger. So I was really high on this one. But this is also how it is that you can, sort of save a situation like this. We've got the leading edge slats are out right now. We're at 210 knots technically. We could also throw 1 notch of flaps out too. So now we got flaps R, flaps 2. As we get below 210 knots, we could go and throw out some more. And you can see the descent deviation is catching up with us finally. 10,000 feet, close enough. I'm going to do landing lights. I'm going to preload my nose light. Let's also go ahead and ring the bell. Still cockpit right now. And let's go ahead and make our turn. 360 degrees. There we go, 360 degrees, so a little bit of a turn to the north. We're not picking up the ILS anymore, but we're probably going to see the extended line show up here just a little bit. We may need to go out a little bit more to catch that. So there's Disco, there's Jumbo right there. Yeah, we should see Jumbo just fine. So let's leave it at 40. There's Jumbo. So there's our turn. Here's our little extended center line here. Let's continue the turn. So we're continuing our turn around to Jumbo here. There's 10,000 feet. We're already below 250 knots. Probably slowed down a little bit too much for a big 360 like this. But now this is going to line us up pretty close to where we need to be. I probably could have saved all this twisting and turning if I had gone into the flight management computer and pulled out all of the extra waypoints. That would have probably done a lot better for us if I'd just gone and done that. All right, let's go ahead and go direct to Jumbo again. So click Jumbo, put it up at top, direct to, and go back over here to LNAV, and it's going to go ahead and take us right to the ILS. Speed brakes are down, 110 knots. Now we're a little bit, now it's getting us right on the descent path. So yeah, I probably could have saved all this trouble if I'd gone and pulled out the extra parts of the star that we weren't going to use. So we should, I should have pulled it out starting at Tubbs, gotten rid of Vulcan, Kirk, and Bam, and just picked it up from Ernie, and then that would have probably got us our descent a little bit better. So if I'd gone and cleaned those out, since Chicago is clearly landing to the west and not to the east, that probably would have saved me this kind of trouble. And now, right now, we're on a nice descent profile to get us to 4,000 feet at Jumbo, 210 knots. All is right with the world. Sort of. We've got the altimeter set. We've got speed brakes. Did we arm these yet? Actually, instead of just clicking it, you could look up here and see there's an enunciation there. Click it. And then it says speed brakes are armed. Very nice. So speed brakes are armed, auto brakes are set. We got a notch of flaps, 210 knots till Jumbo. Then we'll go to 180 to Driscoll, and then we get to land the airplane. Again, after landing, because so much happens, if you get a chance, go over here. I usually will also zoom this in a little bit so that I am able to see everything that I need to see to get us to the gate area. And since I've got moving map on, I can just look right over there. It also makes life so much easier when you're on VATSIM to have that map ready to go, even if you know the airport. Even if you know the airport. And this is looking good. Okay, this is all looking good too. Let's go to init ref. We are going to, let's go ahead, and even though I'm a flaps 30 person, we're going to do flaps 40, which is 140 knots. I always add a little bit to that, so how about 145? That'll work. Everything is pretty much set here. If we were on VATSIM, I would be looking ahead. We'd be getting close to being kicked over to tower. I would also be looking ahead to see if there's ground control. If there's ground is up, I'm going to be prepared as soon as they kick me over to tower to set that ground control frequency in my standby. Now, other pilots, they will go over here and they'll set ground control over here in the active on the co-pilot side. And then I think what they do is they come over here and click the mic selector over here so that you can hear it that way. I need to learn how to do that. There's just a couple of extra buttons that I need to press. If you're also like me and you tend to get kind of comfortable in the chair, you squiggle around or whatever, you know, because it's a long flight, now's the perfect time to, you know, do what they call over in Twitch a posture check. Sit up straight so that you can go and grab your controls. Gently put your feet on the rudder pedals if you've got those and be ready to do rudder stuff. We're at 5,000 feet, looking for that ILS to reestablish itself. The airport itself is now 20 miles out, and you can also see missed approach here at Yukuni, I guess. And it's always a good idea, especially if you're in a big VATSIM event, have a quick look and see missed approach. Climb to 1,100, right turn to 4,000, and go to Yukuni and hold. So it's always a nice idea to go and do that. We're coming up on Boo here. There's Jumbo. So all of that's good. Again, I usually go ahead and reset it like this. Now, if you can also go over here and zoom into your airplane really tight. And this is a really nice moving map too. It doesn't have all of the details that the other maps have, but that makes for a nice moving map too. And I've enjoyed using that part of it because the airport is pretty nicely modeled there. And maybe that ground chart is going to be a little bit better. Okay, we do have the ILS yet? Should be coming up here pretty quick. We're at 4,000 at Jumbo. Yeah, that looks really good. Should be ready to start our final plunge here. Let's get a little bit of help from approach. I do like to use approach mode. It does help while we're really kind of busy here. 16-mile finals, so not bad. Let's go ahead and bring the map in one more click. So there's 20 miles. There's the runway at the 15-mile range. So I usually leave it at 10. And we've got some buildings down here. That doesn't look right to me. I wonder if I still have to turn on some data here. So let's go to data, on. I think all of this is on. Online functionality, Bing, real world is off, multiplayer is off. I guess it's right. Now, one of the things that happens is when you go out of the map like that, it changes your flaps and stuff sometimes. So our flaps changed a bit. Okay, 180. More flaps. How about landing gear? Yeah, that maybe that's Chicago in the wintertime, but that just doesn't look like Chicago to me. Does it look like Chicago out this window? Well, we'll worry about that later. We should probably worry about landing. Couple more clicks of flaps here. Speed brakes are set. Auto brakes are set. And we got glide slope and localizer. If the data doesn't look right, maybe I need to turn on those Bing World graphics. Maybe those were the things that needed to be turned on. Okay, landing speed again is 140. I'm going to call it 145. I'm letting the airplane do the work right now until we get everything all nicely set up. So 180 knots to Driscoll is usually what we would do. 274. The heading is set in case we need to go and do that. Yeah, that looks kind of gamey to me. Maybe it's loading in some stuff. That river's looking better. Maybe it just needs to load in some data.
2500.
I will several times look over at the landing gear. Look for those 3 green lights. I will look to see auto brakes and speed brakes if those are properly set. Those are sort of my big 3 to worry about. Lights are good. Cabin's good. I guess we should have also do a continuous start for landing in case we have to go around. Coming up on Driscoll here. 1 mile from Driscoll, and then we can get our landing speed set. Yeah, it's starting to look a little bit more like Chicago. Must be downloading data now. And that's close enough to Driscoll. 140. What did we say? 145, I think. Yeah, 145. We added 5 to it. So 145, another notch of flaps. Generally, I use buttons for flaps in the PMDG to step up and down. The flap lever over on the TCA Airbus doesn't quite work with a Boeing, but this speed brake lever does. Okay, everything looks good. The last thing I'm going to do is take a look at my wind gauge here. The winds are ahead and to the left. They're gusty, and they're going to try and blow us to the right. So everything looks good there. Autopilot is off. Silence the alarm. Yeah, it's loading data all right. I just saw a whole bunch of stuff load in as we get closer to the airport.
1000.
I just zoomed the little Navigraph map in a little bit more. Whoa, I think we just got some wind. It is gusty here, as it should be in the Chicagoland area. Let myself get a little bit high. I was starting the flight recorder. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect auto throttles. Now I've got my hands on the throttles too.
300 approaching minimums.
Wow, all over the place. It's so windy today.
200 minimums.
Landing.
$100. 50. 30. 20. 10.
Landing long. Reversers. And I briefed the wrong runway for landing. And we missed all the high speeds too. 60 knots, stow the reversers, auto brakes off. We'll have to do foxtrot, foxtrot. Yeah, I briefed the wrong runway going down. Speed brakes can go down. And manual braking. Flaps can go up. Boy, that flap handle is sure handy though than the buttons. And off we go. Okay, we're not on VATSIM, we're not on multiplayer. Let's stop here. So from here, go put your flaps all the way back out here. So my flaps are going to go all the way out. Let's arm those speed brakes again. And let's come on over here, hit stop recording, and hit replay. There's our replay. So flaps are coming out. And we can watch the replay. Yeah, I totally briefed the wrong thing. And yeah, with the data like this, you can see it was slowly painting on most of the time. Let's see how far we floated down. I am using a little application here called Flight Recorder. This is free over at flightsim.to. And this is how you get to go and take a look at your landings. And yeah, high, we should, this is really go around territory for sure. In fact, once you get beyond that little bar there, it's go around. Oh, did you hear the squeal of the tire? It's the first time I heard a little tire squeal like that. And there we go, missing the high speeds. And not so bad. So that's the little flight recorder. It's kind of cool. The only thing is I always remember to start it up way too late. And that's kind of a problem. So starting it up way too late. I'm going to go ahead and let it get us turned around here. So it's going to take us off the runway. It'll leave your speed brakes and flaps out. Remember, I had put those up. Okay, now I'm going to hit stop replay, and now I've got control of the airplane again. And now we can continue on in there. And then just turn that off as we go in. Then you're going to have to redo your speed brakes. And bring up those flaps again. And so that way you can kind of watch that. Okay, cool. So let's go over and find Romeo and go on into the gate. Let's see. I guess windy and all. It was probably a bit of a bouncy landing. 226, 225 on the second replay. That's not so bad. Actually, that I was expecting a lot worse on this. All right, off the runway, I usually do landing lights at this point. Strobes should go back to steady. So strobes go off right now. We can turn off continuous start, and we should start up the APU. There we go. And that should be Romeo. And there is our map, so there's the turn for Romeo. The bigger moving map, as opposed to just having it over a chart, is really kind of nice. As you get in a little bit closer to the gate area, individual taxi lines are not available, so you won't see those. You know, like the Charlie line that we're going to be coming in on to go to our gate. See, we should also come down here and go to transponder. We should turn off the traffic button. Traffic is good too. We're going to go over a runway here. And my scenery is a little bit old. I think they've extended that runway now. So that runway got extended. 9 right has been extended. We'll continue on Hotel, and Hotel should take us to Alpha 9. And that should take us into the gate area. So it's probably time for an update for this airport. Also, some of the north-south runways have like halfway through, there's like this scenery bump that happens to you, and that can be a problem. It can cause a really big bump on landings. And I think in some cases damage a few airplanes if you have damage turned on. Let's see, we can turn off flight directors, auto throttle disconnect, we could turn that off too. Okay, here is Romeo as we continue on around, and then we'll look for Alpha 9 should be good for us. And there's some Chicagoland stuff. See, we should have the APU up and running. We do, and it's looking pretty good. As we're coming in, we'll turn off the probe heaters. And let's see, there was Alpha 6. There is a taxiway that doesn't have a number, and that's before Alpha 9. I guess that's going to be Alpha 8. We can take that one too. Going a little bit fast here. Alpha 8. This is actually the one that we want. I'm able to read the signs here a little bit better here in the Chicago area. I think that maybe in Flight Sim, they need to make them just a little bit bigger because I don't see half of them. There's our turnaround there. We got a master caution we can turn off. And we are looking for Charlie 27. So that's down at the other end. There's the O'Hare Hilton. Back when I was getting to do some traveling, it seemed like every time I went through Chicago, it was basically, we're going to stop and spend the night at the O'Hare Hilton because things were really overbooked at the time, all the time. So because it was always overbooked. Let's see. The burger, I guess, was okay that night. And I was never on that tight of a schedule that I absolutely positively needed to be there. Okay, there is Charlie 11. And we're just doing idle taxi at the moment. It works good. Charlie 15. I think we're coming up on the halfway point here. Yeah, there's that little roadway. So 27's almost at the end here. I'm looking at the number down here. So there's 21, 23, 25. That should be 27 over there. 23, 25, and there's 27. Again, if you just idle in here, there's 27. No gate guidance, so as you come on in, I'll generally get lined up. And I'm getting pretty good at spotting outside the airplane. And that'll get us stopped there. So come on in here, toe brakes all the way down, parking brakes off, and engines. Quickly come up here and do your generators before you lose power. We'll also turn that bleed on too. And the isolation switch is already in, so ventilation is still good. We'll turn these 3 fuel pumps off. Seat belts usually go off with engines because passengers are going to just stand up. Anti-collision lights are going to go off. We should have turned off the taxi light as we came in. Transponder is going to go down here, and that goes off too. Coming up here, you can hit the menu button at this point, and then hit FS Actions, Ground Services. The first thing you're going to want is chocks. Then request a ground power cart, and you can request your jetway. And then if you look outside, we'll see if I actually click the jetway button or not. Maybe not. Let's try and click the jetway again. And the jetway doesn't appear to be moving. We're parked, we're right on the line, and we're even on the 737 line. But the jetway clearly is holding out for more money. So what can we do about that? Well, several things on this airplane. So if the jetway is going to be a brat, go next page, and then change it from jetway to stairs. And then extend your air stairs. Start requesting passenger buses right now. We can also go to page 4 and start requesting the cargo loaders. And we'll get those over there. If you look outside the airplane, you can see that the air stairs have popped out. So now we have stairs. There's our stairs. And then if you come back down in here, you'll have to go to return and go to doors. And we'll open up the 1L, return. Next, go back to ground services. This gets a little awkward. They should kind of have them a little bit grouped together, perhaps better. I don't know. So over here, we're going to go ahead and take a 0 and put that in for passengers and then start. And if you've got a passenger bus and air stairs, you can deboard your passengers. Move over here, put in 0s for the cargo and a 0 for the back cargo. And now we're just waiting for the baggage carts to show up. But there's our airplane, and we made it to Chicago O'Hare. That's actually a pretty good view of the airplane right there, I think. That's a pretty good view of the plane. One of the neat things is O'Hare is modeled on the inside. So you can go and grab your drone camera. And I generally, for the drone camera, to go droning around a terminal, I will move it down to about 2 or 3 and then just come on in. It's going to take a second to get in there, but we'll make it. And so you can kind of go and drone around and have a look at that. And it's actually really pretty cool. The Charlie concourse, the interior is modeled. The other one isn't. So we were right on the line here for gate Charlie 27. Just right perfectly on the line. So we should have gotten a jetway. And then if you come over here, you can look out there. And I got to tell you, it's been a long time, but this is what it looks like. That's kind of what it looks like. How about that? What a nice view of our airplane today. And there we go. I'm going to call that a pretty decent flight. Hope you liked it as well. As always, like to kind of wrap things up by always mentioning that this is not all about the right way versus the wrong way. This is a flight simulator. So I'm trying to show you what works for me. And 90% of the time, this is what works for me. I do forget a few things on occasion, and you will too. But even if you forget things, guess what? You're going to be able to complete the flight like we just did today. As I mentioned, I'm new here on YouTube, and I read all the questions and comments. If there is a flight that you'd like to see me do over here on YouTube, I would certainly like to hear about it, and we'll get that done too. If you liked what you saw and like hanging around with flight simmers, come on over to the Spy Flight on Twitch. We're departing at 1900 Zulu, Tuesday through Sunday at 757 Spy. That was a great time for me to say a big thank you to donors on Ko-fi, Patreon, and also the many, many subscribers over on Twitch that are the jet fuel in my flight plan. Thanks for keeping me going. If you liked what you saw and wanted to support the channel, I will tell you I'm new at this sort of thing, and all support is really, really appreciated. Thank you so much for flying along with me. I hope you are doing well. I'll look forward to seeing you in the friendly skies. In the meantime, as always, stay healthy, stay safe, and a big simulated cheers from the Spy Flight.